Hello, here's your demo video on making a mug using a template. I'm going to be using a conical template. We'll talk about kind of the difference between that and just like a regular up and down shaped mug. So you're going to want to start with the slab, and you're going to want to prepare this slab before you start cutting it. I've taken a damp sponge and I'm wiping off the texture that happens on the slab when you roll it on the slab roller. I'm also putting down some pressure as I do this, and that's going to compress the clay, which is going to make this slab a lot stronger and therefore making your cup stronger. So I've also taken a rolling pin and rolled this out so that the thickness of this slab is about 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to take that measurement on a ruler and put that straight up and down. Look at the thickness of it, and it's just a little bit less. The reason why is that you don't want to have a heavy mug. So about 1/4 of an inch slab or less will do it for you. All right, so a couple different things, or a couple different pieces of advice about the template. We've got these pre-made templates. So if you want, kind of like a teacup shape, you can see kind of how this rolls around and it meets. You're going to get something that looks like this. So playing around with templates can really give you a good visualization of how your cup is going to look. So a template like this, and this is just a small teacup, there is also a medium and a large, is going to get you something that looks like this. All right, so if you want something a little bit more delicate, this would be the template for you, or you can play around with cutting a template. What I did is I took a paper cup and I took it apart, and that's what it looks like when it's flat. So I kind of used this as a guide to make a template. I wanted something a little bit bigger, and a little bit wider. So again, I just kind of used the edges of this, but I extended this. All right, and then I cut out my template, and this is what I'm going to use for my mug. But you can see how the arcs and the angles on the sides are a lot different. So if I take this template and I roll it around like this, my cup is going to look like this. So again, playing with paper first before you go to your slab is going to help you a lot more in the visualization of your mug. Now you could use just a piece of paper like this, and again, if you wanted, just a straight up and down mug, you can. That's perfectly fine. All right, but you're just going to have to kind of figure out the width and the height and all of that kind of stuff. So once you get that figured out, you're going to take your stencil and you're going to cut out your slab. I like to cut out stuff with a needle tool. You could use a fettling knife. Boom. All right, now all of this excess clay that I have in my slab, I'm going to put to the side because I'm going to need that for the bottom of my mug. So don't forget about that mug bottom. All right, so once I have my slab, what I can do is take a fettling knife, and you're going to cut a bevel edge on each end. A bevel edge is an edge that is 45 degrees. So right now, my ends are straight up, so it's got this 90-degree angle. I'm going to cut my bevel edge going in this way. So again, here's 90 degrees, here's 45-ish. All right, and I'm going to cut that bevel. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm not going to go like this. I'm going to keep my fettling knife at this. I'm going to keep my fettling knife like this. So my 45 degrees is going to come this way. All right, so my 45 degrees is, again, above, and my 45-degree angle end over here is kind of below. All right, and the reason why we do that is so that when it wraps around, you'll have a nice snug fit on that seam. if you want to do any, underglaze work on here before you wrap it, or any textural work, this would be the time to do it. Although when you wrap it, it might crack all of those things. So it just kind of depends on the plasticity of your clay. So once you've got that bevel cut, you're going to score and slip the ends. I'm going to score this a little bit more. This is a pretty important seam, and this is keeping the mug together. So we want that to have a nice locked fit. So you're going to wrap it around and you're going to meet those bevel ends. And now you can see why we made those ends at a 45-degree angle, because they fit kind of like a puzzle. It's a nice snug fit. All right, so I'm going to jimmy jam them together. Again, think about those scored ends as Velcro. Nice snug fit right here at the bottom. I'm just going to press up that seam. All right, there's a little bit more clay up here, so I'm going to cut that off. All right. So I've got my seam right here. And I'm going to start to weld it together. So I'm going to use my thumb, or what I like to use, because sometimes my thumbs get in the way, is the round end of your wooden thing tool. And then I'm going to weld that seam together on the inside. Alright, that should do it for now. So, again, thinking about the design of your mug, you don't necessarily have to weld your seam like this. Maybe you want to play with the seam as part of like your design element. So what if it actually wrapped around, but one, instead of meeting, it wrapped around on top of the other side, and you slipped and scored it on the inside here. And then maybe you sculpted it so that it looked like there was, I don't know, like staples or something holding it in place. Or or stitches. Or I've had students, cut out little buttons, and they made like a little button shape, and they actually made it look like the cup was actually buttoned together. So you can even play around with that element if you want. But if you want like a nice smooth kind of surface, you would just, weld it as best as you can. All right, so at this point, I want to thin out the lip or smooth out the lip. Again, that's a comfort element. Again, design any functional pottery and anything that you're going to put to your mouth, you want it to be comfortable. So thinning out the lip just a little bit and rounding it out. And I can do more later as I go along. All right, I'm going to take that extra clay that's left over from my initial slab, and I'm going to cut out the bottom. And you can pick this up on the camera, but you can see that I'm actually cutting it out a little bit more than the actual perimeter or diameter or whatever of this. And that's so that I can weld some of this up. All right, I'm going to put this to the side for a second. I forgot the bottom there. I'm going to score score. Slip. Jimmy jam it on there. All right, now what I can start to do is weld that bottom. There might be a little bit too much excess. I can always cut that off. I got a cup. Yay. All right, so at this point, I'm going to work on shaping it, smoothing it, and smoothing out this bottom, making sure that this is level. So if I put it on a banding wheel, and what I'm doing right now is crouching down to make it eye level, and it's a little bit higher on this end.
Constance, please report to the main office.
Tap
Asa
that.
Leonard, Craig Green, Jackson Rakowicki, Sophia Mattis.
We can start to smooth that. Now if we look on the inside, it's a mess. So I've got to take some time to take this tool. Again, I like this tool for smoothing in those areas that my hand might not get into.
Jack Clark.
And I can smooth that join.
David Crawford, Noah Crowley, Ken Pettigrew, Joseph Westfall, Stephen Sykes. Thank you.
With the inside of a mug, you want to make sure that there aren't any little bits that could flake off later or break off later. You want to make sure that there's no little crevices or corners where food particles can get stuck. That makes a breeding ground for bacteria, as well as it makes it hard to clean. All right, so this is going to take me a while to kind of get this to a spot where, or get to a point where it's really nice and smooth. The next step, though, once I kind of have that smooth, is I'm going to take my excess clay. And because this is excess clay that I folded in itself, I'm going to wedge it to make sure that it's a homogeneous piece of clay so that I'm not trapping any air bubbles. I'm going to make my handle. So your handle design, again, it's up to you. It's up to, whatever your design is, whatever your plans are, whatever you drew out in your initial design work. The handle can also be a design element in and of itself. This could be, what if it was like you decorated your mug and it was a cat and this was the tail. Maybe this you're going to decorate your mug like it's an elephant and it's the trunk of an elephant. But just for a basic handle, you're going to wedge that piece into the shape of a carrot. And I think this might be a little bit too big. And I've got to consider the size of my cup in comparison to my handle. All right, once I have a good length of clay, I cut a little bit off this end, and it looks like a carrot. So again, fatter on one end, smaller on the other end. It tapers down. You're going to take a wet sponge. You're going to hold it, and from the fat end, Just going to go like this, kind of pat it down. And again, this will compress the clay to make that handle, the clay in this handle, nice and strong. We've got a flat edge right now, but it's a little bit rounded, which is good. All right, so now I'm going to fit it on my mug. Too big? It's better to start off with too much clay than not enough, because you can't really add clay once you've prepped that handle. All right, so once I have that, I'm not going to slip and score it to it right now. This clay is way too plastic. What I am going to do is take a small bat, spray it a little bit, and I'm going to store the handle and the mug that I made, again, upside down. So bottom up. This is my handle. I'm going to put some plastic over it. And I want these two pieces of clay to get leather hard together. So I want them to dry at the same rate so that when I attach them, they'll be in the exact same stage or have the exact same moisture content for attachment. All right, so I'm going to do that. Wait, 24 hours or whenever I get back to it, and attach it.